March is Brain Injury Awareness Month, and to bring awareness to the many amazing advocates and resources available for those searching for information on brain injury and traumatic brain injury, today I'm interviewing Melissa Meep and Annie Ricketts from the Global Picnic. Both Annie and Melissa are traumatic brain injury survivors and have worked very hard to create the Global Picnic. So, can you guys tell me a little bit about your organization? What's your vision and the mission?
Hi, good evening, Ashley. The main vision of the Global Picnic is to bring an end to the silent epidemic. The thing with specifically traumatic brain injury is that very few people know about it. And when people don't know about it, when there's a lack of awareness out there, people fall into the same traps over and over again. And we see these issues come up so commonly. And they're so similar, and they're literally all over the world. Every country that we speak to people in have these same issues. So, by raising awareness and educating people before brain injury happens, hopefully we can make them aware of some of the pitfalls. So, for example, right across the world, we have a problem with general practitioners not being trained about traumatic brain injury at all. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you an example of that. There was a locum at my own surgery last year, and he looked quite young to me. So I thought, I'm going to ask him how long he's been out of medical college for. So I did, and he said to me, he said 2.5 years. I said, can I ask you what they taught you about brain injury, traumatic brain injury? And he said, traumatic brain injury? He said, I've never heard of it. Mm. And this is the problem. And this guy was actually, a locum at my own medical centre, but he was on loan from the accident and emergency department of our local hospital. So, this is an A&E doctor. Somebody comes in with a traumatic brain injury. He doesn't know what it is. And then what happens, Ashley, is he's going to give them an aspirin, say, go home, get some rest. And hopefully, fingers crossed, that person isn't going to have a slow brain bleed in the night, and they're still going to be alive in the morning. Mm-hmm. And it's this lack of awareness that we really need to come over. And the reason that it's a silent epidemic is really because there is no general public knowledge about traumatic brain injury. And if we can bring change, then we also bring change for everybody that's following behind us, and we know the figures on that. We know the figures in the UK and all of the other countries. So, we're talking about millions of people every year falling into the same traps of not having information, of, being dismissed by doctors, of having inaccurate diagnoses, not being passed on to specialists, not having treatment, and so on and so forth. The list is endless. And, the longer it goes on for, the greater those problems become.
Right.
Does that answer everything for you?
Oh, yes, definitely. So now getting to the Global Picnic. Why did you choose a picnic as your focal event?
Well, it kind of began, I wrote a book, not last year, the year before, and it was actually ready for publication, released through Amazon in January of last year. And I'd started on Facebook. I'd set up a website to support that book. Mm-hmm. And, I did have, the whole reason for writing the book was because I'd gained so many insights into why things were broken and how to fix them. And this was really what I wanted to share through the book was, when this is happening to you, this is why. And this is how you fix it from the inside of brain injury, because even the specialists will, they will look at us and they will say, I can only tell you what I've learned about. I've never experienced it. Some people don't even go that far. They pretend that they know everything. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of false information is out there, and there are a lot of myths. And of course, it's all unintentional, but, we need to put things straight. And I think if somebody has a resource that they can go to, that really identifies with what they're going through at the moment, and they can come to understand why it's happening and actually what is happening and how to fix it, how I found my way through it and actually fixed it, because I've basically fixed my own brain. So, then that was going to be a tremendous help for people, and that was my intention. That's what I was doing. And I thought, right, once I've got all of this set up, then my next part of, what I wanted, in inverted commas, was to actually to finish editing a book that I'd written previously to that, which was about beliefs and about how how life works, how people work. And that was a book that I was totally passionate about, was very, very easy to write. The words just completely flowed. Whereas the brain injury book, when I started that, it was incredibly hard, because one thing that I really didn't want to do was to revisit the past, and I struggled for months. I knew it had to be done, but I really had to struggle for months to put myself and to prepare myself for going back there, because anybody with a traumatic brain injury will tell you it is one horrific journey. So so it took me 3-4 months to build the courage up, and it was an incredibly difficult book to write, because the part in my brain that understands time had been completely broken, so I had no chronology. I didn't know what had happened in what order. Short-term memory, loss of short-term memory didn't help. Loss of long-term memories didn't help either. So I didn't really have a great deal of understanding about my life pre-brain injury either. So there was an awful lot of work that had to go into that, and I was still having difficulty with reading. So, and remembering things. So I'd write a sentence, and I'd get to the end of it, and I wouldn't even remember what I'd written. So I'd have to read it again, and then I'd read it 10, 15 times and think, yes, I know where I was going. And then I'd get the next sentence.
Right.
So, it was an incredibly, incredibly difficult task. And, because to bring all of the experiences of your brain injury together can be incredibly difficult, because your brain hasn't necessarily fathomed everything along the way. In the whole complexity of it, I knew exactly what I'd done, to fix myself and to help myself, but actually being able to put that in terms of real life was very difficult. So it started with this book, and of course, as I was saying, I wanted to then go back to writing. I loved to write, and I wanted to go back to that, and I'd got all these other ideas for other books and everything else that I wanted to do. And then, totally out of the blue, on the morning of the 18th of January last year, I woke up from, like 5:30 in the morning from this, and I just sat bolt upright, and I'd had this most incredibly lucid dream I've ever had in my life. And it was almost as though I could smell the grass, and I could hear people giggling, and I could hear dogs barking, I could hear leaves rustling in the trees, and there was a clear blue sky. It was really, really like just being there. And there were people throwing frisbees across a park, and people were sat on picnic blankets, and I absolutely knew without a shadow of a doubt that these people were there. And it's going to make me cry saying this, because that's how strong this is. But people were there because they wanted to raise awareness about traumatic brain injury. They wanted to change the world, and everybody shared that same dream, and that's why they'd all come together. And I just knew immediately what I had to do. All my hairs are standing up on my arms and head. But yeah, that's how powerful that was. And I literally, it was actually a really beautiful morning that morning, and I went off. I took my dogs for a walk around the lake, and the sun was rising. It was really frosty, and there was still a crescent moon in this pink sky, and it was just the most incredible morning. And I came back, and I just got onto Facebook, and I just typed in, "I've had this dream," and then people came to me, and it just literally almost overnight just blew into this great big, everybody's wants to hold on to this and to grasp this dream and to make it happen. And that's exactly what we did. People just came together, and it was the most amazing experience, and it still is. It still remains the most amazing experience to this day, because every time we needed something, every time I thought, I need a researcher, literally, I would come to Facebook, literally within seconds, and there would be a message on there for me, from somebody saying, "If you need any research at doing any, please let me know." And it was just, everything was so synchronistic, and there was nothing that we were wanting for. at all. And we all worked incredibly hard. And without a doubt, you know, another 100 people on board would have been brilliant. But we had what we needed, and you know, to get this started. And literally, the passion that people showed right from the beginning, and you know, the incredible excitement that was going around was just incredible. It was just the most incredible experience. So um, that's how it started. That's how it started. It started with a dream.
That's amazing. I think that's the best way for anything to start. In the end, we decided we would go for a world record, which would be the most picnickers at multiple locations on a single day, so within a 24-hour period. So then, with my brain injury, I had to sit down and work out, well, what time is it going to be in New Zealand? And, you know, how's this 24-hour period going to, you know, begin and end in each different country and across each different time zone, you know, even across the states, is quite difficult. So I sat down and worked all that out. That took me a few days. I'm not very good with numbers anymore. For somebody that was absolutely brilliant before, it's quite a thing. But it took me a few days to get my head around that one. And we decided that we would go for this world record, because if we can gain a world record, then we're going to get a huge amount of publicity. So it's developed then, the whole picnic idea is then developed into, you know, Guinness say that, you know, you must have a minimum of 25 people. Everybody must sit down on the ground for a minimum of 10 minutes. There are a lot of requirements, specific requirements, because if it was too easy, everybody would be doing it, and the world record would not be valuable to anybody. So there were quite a lot of stipulations. You know, everybody must bring their own picnic. There needs to be a minimum of 25 people. Plus, you need, you know, some independent people. So you need somebody to do a video and take pictures and things like that. So we then decided, right, okay, what we'll do is, because not everybody has got the capacity to handle all these specific specifications. So people can either just have their own little backyard picnic, you know, with family, friends, and not worry at all about the world record, or they can opt to go for the world record, in which case this is the information that you need to look at. These are the, you know, the criteria that you need to reach. So that's really how the picnics work, and the whole idea is that each person having a picnic can then, you know, contact their local, you know, the local newspaper, the local radio station, local television company, and you know, just say, look, I'm part of the global picnic. The reason that I'm part of the global picnic is, and then they share, you know, well, you know, this is what happened to me. You know, I was one of the people that fell through the net, or I was one of the people that, you know, didn't get treatment because my insurance wouldn't cover it. And, you know, and this kind of thing. So that it's getting each individual person that's organised a picnic is getting something into the media. And, you know, because the media are very loath to take things on board. Now, you know, the great thing is, over the last year since we started doing this, we've seen a lot more come into the media, and they're starting to spread it out a little bit, you know, with the sports awareness and, you know, with the war veterans, which has been absolutely fantastic. But you're actually now starting to get personal stories come into the media, but they will always be introduced by either, this is what happened to Gabby Giffords, you know, or,
this is the thing that's going on. Traumatic brain injury is what's happening with the veterans, and concussions is what happened with the sports players. And here's somebody's story. So they're using the power of these other stories and the public interest in these other stories in order to be able to introduce other ideas. But we still need to make this bigger. We still need the media to just write more and more and more. We need much more television coverage, because if people actually know about brain injury before it happens, then I don't know if you looked at our video for this year, Ashley. Did you see that?
The video for what? The picnic?
The video for the picnic this year. Did you see that at all?
I did.
Yeah, so it's very outwardly focused. It's focused on people that don't know about brain injury at all, and it's saying this is we know that you're living a perfectly happy life, and that nobody wants to think about illness or disease until it happens.
Right.
Well, if you've got cancer, you know that your doctor is going to know about cancer. You know that you can go to the cancer, charities for support and help. Over here we have Macmillan nurses and things like that. People know about these things. So when it happens, they know what to do. But with traumatic brain injury, it is nothing like any other condition or disease. It is totally unique. If you don't know about brain injury before it happens, you can end up in a myriad of really, really life awful situations. People, families are split apart because they're not given information by doctors and hospitals. They don't know what to expect. People are still told myths. They're told that, your loved one has had a traumatic brain injury, their personality has changed for life, they'll never be the same again. Well, if you're a husband or a wife and you hear that, and that person comes home and they really are, sort of getting frustrated or getting a bit angry where you wouldn't normally see it, and you're going to think, oh my God, this is not the person I married. And all of a sudden you've got a divorce on your hands. Children are being torn apart. But if they were given accurate information, if they were given good information, they would be told, you will see behavioural changes, but as your loved one's brain recovers, as it heals, you'll see those things disappear. I'm exactly the same person now, personality-wise, Ashley, as I was before my traumatic brain injury. And they told me that I would never, ever be the same again. They told me that I would never recover. They told me that I had a lifelong disability. And yes, I've lost some skills. Yes, I still, have difficulties with some things, but I've got coping mechanisms and strategies in place where I can deal with most of what flies at me. And, but the actual person, who I am, is exactly the same as I was before. And I think actually, if anything, stronger, more powerful, more insightful because of the experience that I've been through. But I'm actually the same person, and I was told that I would never recover and I'd be disabled for life. So we need to make sure that people are not listening to these myths, but they're listening to the reality, and they're listening to true stories. They're listening to people that have experienced these things. And even with the most severe of cases, healing is constant. That's Mother Nature. It may be very, very slow, but it's constant, it's perpetual, and it is happening. So, where was I? Sorry, I get on my little soapbox. So you can probably tell I'm pretty passionate about this stuff. So
definitely, that's great though.
Yeah, but that's how the picnics work. Is really to bring the media together so that we can we can stop things from happening to people. And hopefully, we'll also get the attention of the doctors and the hospitals and people like that. That we need people to change the way they're doing things. We need protocols to change. And, we need insurance companies to take a completely different attitude as well in the United States, which is, although I'm English and I live over here in England, a lot of the people, that come to me and, talk to me and share, their experiences and difficulties with me are American. And, as far as I'm concerned, there are no borders, Ashley. You know, brain injury doesn't discriminate. It doesn't know that there's a border between, you know, one country and another. We're all one family, and I see us very much as being one family. So wherever somebody lives, if they've got a difficulty, I'll take it on board. And, you know, I've written to Blue Cross Blue Shield and people like that and saying, hey, you know, come on, you know, we've got all this latest research, you know, proving that rehabilitation actually does work. You know, why are you not giving people treatment?
Right.
You know, so you know, it enables us to do a lot of things, but with the media behind us, it's going to be a lot easier to get some of these changes made, and we need those changes now, not next week, not next year. We need them now, because somebody today is having another traumatic brain injury. You know, somebody else is going to fall through the net. Somebody else is going to die from a slow brain bleed that was never even imagined or thought of by a doctor. You know, it's not good enough, Ashley. It really isn't good enough. We need this to change now. And that's the, you know, if this year, if we get all of these people come together and have these picnics, they're all registered on the website, and everybody's out there saying, you know, hey, Mr. Local Newspaper Man, this is what I'm doing. The media are suddenly going to think, hang on a minute, look what's happening. Look what's happening. What are these people doing? You know, and we're not only going to get international press, national press, we're going to get international press. This is going to go everywhere, but we need people to come together, to have a picnic, to register it, to get it on the website, and to come to us and say, Annie, what do I say to my local newspaper? Melissa, what do I say to my local radio station? You know, what do I put on my posters? Come and ask us. You know, we'll help you. And we'll do the best that we can. And, you know, together we'll muddle through. This is exactly what we did last year. We'll do it again this year. Hopefully, if we get some sponsors and some funding behind us, we can really help an awful lot more with those things. And, you know, we're looking into that, and that's what we would really, really love to happen. But, you know, we're a bunch of people living with brain injury. None of us have got any money, and we're doing our best. And that's, you know, and our best is pretty good. I think our best is pretty good, and it's because, you know, so many people support what we're doing, because we're all sharing exactly the same stories, and we're all talking about exactly the same dream. Yeah. So do you have any other questions about how those picnics work?
No.
Did that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense, yes, definitely. And you guys were close last year to breaking the record, right, for the picnics?
Yeah, we were. We had, what happened was we decided on the date for the global picnic would be the 30th of June. And, you know, that information had been out there for like 3 weeks or so. And then it was noticed by one of the biggest groups over there in the USA, by the TBI Survivors Network, that, hang on a minute, no, we can't do it on the 30th of June because that's when we have the Hoop Fest. So they had to do it on the 16th of June. So our days were actually broken into two. So although on the 16th of June, TBI Survivors Network actually had about 38,000 people involved.
Wow.
Believe it or believe it not. So, you know, and they're mainly, you know, across those Western states. But that was an awful lot of people to be involved in the picnics. And it was really, you know, because we had no experience. The trouble is with having a brain injury, you have no experience of anything. You know, we were all starting from scratch, and this was starting from scratch. When we didn't, you know, we were kind of making it up as we go along. And I have a problem as well, whereas I can't visualise into the future. I can only be here in the moment, which is, you know, a lot of people that are uninjured actually try really, really hard to be like that. And I'm like it, and I can't not be like it. So, yeah, I'm very much in the moment, but it's debilitating in so much as I can't see forward, so I can't see what we're going to need, which is why I always say, you know, the brain injury picnic belongs to absolutely everybody, because I've got a broken brain. Everybody that's involved has got a broken brain. If we bring all those brains together, you know, then we're going to end up with a much finer tuned result than we are if, you know, you've got one person, you know, with disabilities missing things here and there. And this year, of course, we've got so much more experience behind us. We've learned from all our mistakes last year. Everybody that's been involved, you know, as well, will tell you, Ashley, that their involvement in it it's actually given them experiences that they've actually helped them heal parts of their brain. So, just being involved and doing something and being, active in something and having to think about what they're doing is actually healing for people. Right. So, there are benefits. Every which way you look, there are benefits to this thing. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I know you already touched on this a little bit in your previous answers, but do you feel like brain injuries are overlooked or stigmatized in our society?
Well, personally, you see, I'm sort of a bit of a will-o'-the-wisp, I guess. I'm very much my own person, and I think that if somebody else has got their stuff, that stuff belongs to them. So if they have prejudice towards me or lack of understanding towards me, that's their issue, and they can keep that. I know where I am over here, and I know I'm a good person. That's all I need to know. So when it went on a personal basis, I do notice it, and I am aware of it. Especially, the "you look fine" thing. There's nothing wrong with you because you speak. You can do all of these things, and you look absolutely fine. There's no scars. There's nothing wrong with you. But actually, yeah, I struggle day to day, and I struggle with things that people aren't even aware of. But I'm using coping mechanisms all day, every day. And, some things are taking longer to heal than other things. And the only reason that I know an awful lot about brain injury and the global picnic is because that's where all my energy's been for the last 12 and a half years. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing I've thought about for 12 and a half years. Of course, I know a lot about it. Mm-hmm. But, when I go out, socially or something else, I've got nothing else to talk about because the only thing I really know anything about is brain injury. So I tend not to get invited back. So whether you can call that stigma or prejudice, I'm not sure. Or whether I'm just, not a very good social guest, I'm not sure. But I am aware, and we have got a section on the website as well of people that are very, very strongly aware of stigma. There's still lingering, cultural indifference to people. They look at people with brain injury and think, oh, well, you've got a mental issue. But it's not a mental issue. If you've broken your brain, then the brain cells that got hurt are dead. Mm-hmm. They don't rejuvenate. Mm-hmm. A dead brain cell is a dead brain cell. So whatever function that group of brain cells was doing, you have to learn from scratch. And people don't realise that. And and it can be frustrating, and it can be, incredibly difficult to live with. And yeah, of course, it's going to bring about behavioural problems. Mm-hmm. And different brain injuries bring different things, but people need to understand that it is because of a genuine long-term disability. It's not due to somebody's inadequate personality or any other such thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, stigma definitely exists without a doubt, and that's something that we need to overcome. We need, for all disabilities as well, and this is something else that I'm really passionate about, Ashley, is people need to stop judging other people and being afraid of things that they don't understand. And instead, if you don't understand something, go and learn about it, because when you're aware and when you have some education, then you can approach people, with disabilities without being afraid of them. The whole reason that the fear exists is because of this lack of education, because people haven't bothered to go and learn or find out. Mm. And, there's nothing wrong with anybody with a disability. We're all exactly the same. We're all spirits, human spirits living within us, inside a body. We're all people. And, and there should be no such thing as discrimination in this day and age. Right. And there should be no such thing as judgment and, false beliefs and things like that towards people with disability. And, people with disability are here, and we've got so much to share as well, because, people think, another part of the stigma is, oh, well, you're not working, you're not contributing to society. But actually, we're contributing in a lot of other ways. And, people just need to just open their eyes a little bit and open their hearts a little bit and say, actually, yeah, and if that happened to them, would they want to be stigmatized the same way?
Right.
No, they wouldn't. And at the end of the day, I believe every single human being is being the best person that they can be. I don't believe that there are very many people that are sat out there and, using any kind of a disability as an excuse not to work. I think that the vast majority of people want to work. They want to contribute. I've still, got exactly the same ambitions as I had before my brain injury. I just don't have the skills in order to enable me to fulfill those ambitions. So you have to adjust. But yeah, I would say that, people really, really need to wake up. And that's another part of what we're trying to do with the Brain Injury Global Picnic, is just to get those ideas across and say, all you need to do is so easy. Just go and find out. Don't read. Take 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Just learn a tiny little bit. And it doesn't matter whether it's about MS, or whether it's about depression, or whether it's about brain tumours, or whatever it is, or or Down syndrome, anything that's different to the typical person. It's not frightening and it's not scary, and actually, yeah, we're all lovely people as well. So, and probably because of our experiences, we're probably an awful lot more understanding than the general public can be sometimes anyway.
Definitely.
Anything else there?
No, but speaking of your traumatic brain injuries, I know that you and Melissa have both experienced traumatic brain injuries. Can you tell me a little bit more about your brain injury stories?
Yeah, Melissa, do you wanna go first on this one?
No, you can go first. That's fine.
Well, what happened to me was I was out. I used to be an international sales manager, and on a Sunday morning, I had a very busy life, family and everything else. Worked a lot of hours, and always bundles of energy. And on a Sunday morning, I'd go out for a 2-hour ride. I lived in a really lovely part of England called the New Forest, which is like an open national park. And you could just ride a horse around there for 2 hours, not come across any traffic or noise or anything else. And it's just, just used to really fill me with this sense of freedom again, and just clear my mind ready for the next week. It was just, just my favourite thing to do on a Sunday morning. And this one particular Sunday morning, I was on a really, really big horse, and his feet were like the size of a dinner plate, and the girl leading the ride was on a tiny little pony. Well, in this national park, there are wild ponies, and then, just tiny little ponies, and they wander around, but the soil is really sandy. So they create these deep ruts, that are about, maybe 10 inches wide and 8, 9, 10 inches deep. And this girl veered off the big wide sandy track that we were cantering down and onto one of these tiny pony ruts. And, I saw it, tried to pull my horse back, and literally within that split second, he caught his hoof. He went down at the front. He was trying to accelerate from the back, and then we're in this rocking horse thing. I'm trying to adjust him and trying to help him. And I can remember the last thought I had was I need to do a flying dismount and hang on to the reins, because, you always try and keep the horse safe. And I remember thinking that, and apparently, and that's the last thing that I remember, and apparently I went up in the air. So I flew off this huge horse, straight up into the air, and came back down straight as an arrow, straight onto the top of my head. And they said 12 to 14 feet. So how I didn't break my neck, I really, really don't know. And when I came round, my brain couldn't even. It was actually really, because I've always had this weird sense of humour. Melissa will tell you about me and my weird sense of humour. But I was sat there and I couldn't. I'd been unconscious for quite a long time. And when I came round, and everybody was like, oh my god, because you just come round, and I'm sat there and I just not, the people, I couldn't hear the voices, and it was a bit like being in a dreamlike state. But also I'm sat there and I'm looking at this world out there, and I'm thinking, well, that's not right. But I didn't know what wasn't right, and my brain actually couldn't differentiate what was the sky, what was the trees, what was a horse, what was a person, what was the moorland. It was just one picture, and my brain couldn't break it down at all. And And then when I open my, they're obviously saying to me, are you all right or whatever. And when I open my mouth, I think instead of saying, yes, I'm fine, I think I just, sat there and said, yeah, I'll buy a loaf of bread today. It was just completely different to the expected response. And then I became aware of that, so I started laughing. And I just could remember sitting there and laughing my socks off. But this then led to like an entire, a stream of catastrophic events, one after the other. I mean, number one, they should have put me into the ambulance, and I should have been strapped to a spinal board, and taken to hospital. But they didn't. They stuck me back on a horse, and it was about an hour's ride back to the stables, and then they all just ignored me. So I'm standing there, thinking, well, what do I do next? And I thought, oh, I know, I've got a car. I need to go home. Well, I couldn't remember how to drive properly, so I'm sat there and I'm peering over the end of the bonnet, trying to see the road right in front of the car. It didn't occur to me to look down the road and and whatever. I'm trying to peer over the top of the steering wheel, and I couldn't remember the gears, so it's like hiccuping down the road, and I'm just laughing. I'm just like a child. I'm just laughing my socks off. No sense of danger. Absolutely, no sense of anybody else might get hurt or anything else. And I managed to get home, but on the way I had to pull off this little road and onto a dual carriageway. Well, I couldn't judge speed and distance, and I couldn't have said I can't judge speed and distance. Now, obviously, I know, but I didn't know what was wrong. But I knew that, oh, this is all, like a bit weird. So I shut my eyes and put my foot down. I went onto that road with my eyes closed, and it was, to me, the exhilaration of it was a bit like, oh, I'm on a roller coaster. This is great, woohoo! And that's exactly what I was like. And anyway, I eventually ended up in hospital that night, and they kept me there for 4 hours. And on my medical records, it says that I'm unconscious in the waiting area on my own. Nobody bothered to try and lift me up, put me on a gurney, take me into a room. There was nobody else in the hospital, so surely we know that there's generally less staff over a weekend, but surely we've got one nurse definitely, because she's writing all the notes saying that I'm unconscious. And then, because no doctor appeared, I got taken home. So with no, warnings of, she might have a brain bleed in the night, keep an eye on her or anything like that. And the next morning I'm back in the hospital. It says in my medical notes, that I need to have a scan done and all these other things. Everything got missed. Nothing ever happened. They kept me in overnight, and I tried to escape at one point because I didn't even know where I was or why I was there. And I can remember feeling embarrassed, sitting there, because I obviously had been unconscious again, and I came round and I thought, why am I in this hospital bed? I thought, oh my God, I've come to visit somebody and fallen asleep. And this embarrassment came over me, so I just grabbed my stuff and I ran off up the corridor, where this nurse came and grabbed me and gave me a right good telling off and physically pulled me back. But none of, that still hasn't alerted these people to the fact that I've got a serious traumatic brain injury. I've got double vision, and I'm saying to them, well, why have you got two heads? And I don't realise that, having two heads could be serious. I'm just thinking it's funny. Oh, you've got two heads, one's on top of the other. Why have you got two heads then? And I'm totally disorientated, like I say, constantly falling back into unconsciousness. And they, when they were doing the Glasgow coma scale on me, instead of saying that I'm disorientated and confused, she's put down I'm slightly deaf, because I couldn't understand her questions. So I'm not answering her. So when I'm not answering her, I'm deaf. That was it. That was the answer. Well, she must be deaf then. So, so everything got missed. I was actually diagnosed by one of the doctors with a severe traumatic brain injury. And got sent home. A letter was sent to my doctor saying I should have follow-up. That never happened. So I basically fell through the net, and I tried really hard for the next 4 years of constantly visiting my doctor, and various other things happened as well that should have, awakened services to what was happening. And, one set of my medical notes reads, hasn't got any sayings, can't read, can't write, can't remember anything. And it's a whole list, huge list. Prefers psychology, obviously got psychological problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and I haven't got psychological problems. My brain's broken. So, but I couldn't, because of the aphasia, of course, I couldn't explain things properly. And, it's always just looked at as if I was totally bonkers. Something wrong with it. Maybe she must be on something or whatever. But because doctors not trained in brain injury, they're not looking for those symptoms. They're not looking for those sequelae. And, and they're missing things. So it took me 4 years. And eventually I was sent for scans and tests and everything else. And eventually then in year 5, I started to see a neuropsychologist and I started to see an occupational therapist. So, it was a really, really long journey. And, they did turn around to me. The neuropsychologist said to me, she said, I really do seriously think, she said, the only thing that has kept you alive, she said, is your sense of humour. Mm. She said, I'm really, really surprised that you're sat here in front of me. She said, if you're looking at all the tests and everything else and how severe the brain injury's been, because I had absolutely no sense of self-awareness whatsoever. I didn't even know that I could be a person. And it was, I've described it in my book as it's very much like somebody else is pulling your body behind you on a trolley. It's just this separation thing going on, and and eventually over a year and a half of having, the help and the occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, that self-awareness started to return, and that was, I'd call that my horrible year. It was a really, really dark year. Because I suddenly started to realise, gradually over that time, I started to realise more and more and more. And, I realised that I'd been upsetting people and hurting people because you're not conscious of self. Mm-hmm. You're unable to be conscious of what you're doing, saying, behaving, acting. So everything that you are doing, saying, behaving, acting is total autopilot, very much like a child. And it is like going back to childhood. You're totally oblivious, like a child looking at their mother that's screaming and shouting at them, and they're like, yeah, whatever, you get over it. And, they just don't take any notice. They're unable to absorb it and take it in, and I was exactly the same. So, when I had been upsetting people, I hadn't had a clue. I'd been totally, totally oblivious to it. And like I say, over this year, that started to come back, and it was actually 6.5 years after after I fell on my head that they were actually able to tell me that I'd got dysexecutive syndrome, and that these were the things that were broken. Actually, everything that was on their list was broken. But I'd escaped reasonably lightly with physical disabilities, that my brainstem had been damaged, so I'd had problems with my heart for the first 7 years. And it kept missing beats and wouldn't beat in time and things like that. And damage to the pituitary gland has caused problems with hormones and so on and so forth. I totally lost my sense of smell, but, and the headaches, to start with, were absolutely horrendous. And I can remember hearing noises in my head and feeling like the brain inside my skull was being pinched. And it's almost like you can become physically aware of the brain mass, which you shouldn't be able to feel. But that is exactly how it does feel. So, and then once they'd explained to me that I'd got this dysexecutive syndrome, I was then kind of dropped again. So I spent the next, 5 years working out what was broken and how to fix it. And that's how I managed to put the book together, because I had to do that work for myself. So I've fallen through the net twice. But it's been a long journey. So, but that's basically me, and I think that more or less covers from A to B. Obviously, there's a lot more detail in there, but right. I don't want to bore the pants off everybody. So, yeah.
No, it does. It seems like it has been a long journey.
So, yeah, well, it has, and it is for everybody, and you do end up with a unique understanding. And so when you're talking to other people about it, like when Melissa and I, obviously we're communicating every day. Mm-hmm. And it gets quite funny sometimes, because with our disabilities, And I said to him, no, you need to say that another way. You need to say that another way. Can you say that a different way, Melissa? And and then she says to me, "Oh, did you realise that you did this, or did you realise?" No, I didn't know I'd done that. No, thank you so much for pointing that out. Did you realise you'd missed this? No, I didn't. Thank you so much. So, so there's this great team thing going on, but because you recognise that it's actually a disability. You're not judgmental over it. You're not like, oh, getting cross with somebody because you haven't done this or you haven't done that. It's like, well, I get that. So, it gives you a totally different rapport and relationship with people. And everybody that when one brain injury survivor meets another one, there's just this instant bond. And, whether that's via Facebook or email or any other kind of social media or anything else, or whether it's face to face, it's just this incredible thing. And last year I went to the International Brain Injury conference up in Edinburgh, and I was standing there doing my thing, and this girl came over to me, and she said, "I've got a brain injury," and that was it. We just instantly put our arms around each other and held each other. It was just that total bond and kinship, and I think that's what happens with people. And it is about understanding that it's not personality. It is about understanding that we're having difficulties with long-term disabilities.
Right. Well, Annie, your story is really inspiring. Melissa, do you want to tell us a little bit about your brain injury story?
Sure. I had my whitewater rafting accident happen in August of 2010. I was whitewater rafting and up north, and the guide, we were going down. We were all prepared, and he said, "All right, are you ready?" And I was on the very back of the raft, sitting on top, and so wasn't he. And which was kind of concerning to one of my friends who's a seasoned rafter, because he said, I'm pretty small, so he was, that's a steering position.
Mm-hmm.
And he went up to the guide, we'll call him Wilson for now, but he went up to the guide and said, should she really be on the back? And he said, "Oh yeah, I'll take care of her, don't worry." So we went and did like a 5 to 7 minute tutorial,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were on our way. So the first rapid that we went down was a class 4. There wasn't any warm-up. I can laugh at it now. He was saying pretty much the shower you took this morning was your warm-up, and little did he know it wasn't going to be a fun day. But the second rapid that we went down was going to be my arch nemesis, because it was a class 5, and there was 3 parts to this class 5 rapid. He ended up getting bounced out. We hit a pocket. He bounced out most of the way, but he still had his feet tied in. So me and my friend Chris pulled him back in, but I lost my footing, and I got ejected after hitting another pocket, and most of my friends didn't even know I was ejected. The guide kind of kept going, trying to get a safe spot to try and rescue me, but in the meantime, I was getting kicked and pushed and kind of sucked underwater several times with the undertow, and I couldn't kind of turtle up in the right direction. My head was facing downward, which you're supposed to be feet downward, and I remember going down, getting such suction down into the water where it was black, and I didn't know if I was going to die or not because I couldn't see any light whatsoever, and I was hitting rocks left and right, either with my body or my head, and I would come up and be all confused of which direction I should be going in. And then I can hear people somewhere saying, ooh, ah, and I knew people were around, but I couldn't find my raft that I was with. I couldn't see anybody trying to save me. And I finally, after all the hell I went through, I finally, hear my friend at the time, like this screeching sound of like horror. Jen, and that was the only thing that I think saved me, because I knew which direction to go in. And somebody threw out a rope which hit me in the face, which I didn't care at that point. I just wanted to live. And they pulled me in. Needless to say, the guide told me later on that if they didn't catch me, I would have hit a 8-foot drop or a 12-foot drop, which probably would have killed me. So I was kind of taken over to a resting place, and they said, "Are you okay?" But my adrenaline was so pumped that I didn't know if I was hurt or anything, but I just at the time had tons of contusions, and that was it. They were like, "All right, she's all right. Let's get her back in the raft." And that was it. They didn't really ask twice, or they didn't review me or anything. They just kind of shoved me back because they didn't want to be liable. And then the next day, I could barely move, and I had to take one of my friend's meds because I was in such grueling pain. And then I had to drive myself home. By the time I got onto the Mass New Hampshire line, I ended up calling my friend to meet me at McDonald's so I can get some food in me, and then we're going straight to the hospital. They just basically they didn't do any scans. They did a couple of x-rays, but nothing showing up on my chest. But that's about it, and they sent me home with some painkillers. Oh, and they gave me, they looked at my legs that was all bruised up, and they put me in a foot boot on both feet, so I looked like I was a walking Martian. That was a fun time, trying to walk in those. But I went back to work the next day, and everybody's like, "Why are you here?" And I just said to them, because I have to work. I tried working there for a little while until the surgical clinic where I used to work, the doctor reviewed me there, did more testing, and said, "You can't work." And I said, "No, I'm in too much pain." So I left work and ended up sorry, my brain's shorting out for a second.
That's okay.
I left work, and then I was out of work because I was having tremors in my stomach, and so I went to a GI doctor. He couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I went to, I was going to like family events and things like that, and I was just so tired all the time. Nothing was clear to me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I felt like a freak of nature. There were so many different symptoms that was happening. My family was like, "What's wrong with you? This isn't like you." And I was like the sole supporter of my family, so they were like, "When's your next check coming in?" And no money's coming into the house. And so come late December, I booked an appointment with my neuro because I had gone out with my family in November, and all these stories that they were telling, I couldn't remember any of them, and I was sleeping through most of the gathering. So I went to the neurologist. He had done an MRI, and he said, you have a traumatic brain injury. And about 2 days later, I started having seizures, and sometimes 4 seizures a day. And so they took my license away, and nobody hardly would help me get to my speech appointments or anything like that. So I was missing out on speech appointments that I needed. They didn't have any transportation to get me there. And then I went for a neuropsych eval, which the doctor was really nice to me, and they told me, she said, I need to have you, a friend, and if you can get your dad here, have him there. And I said, okay. So they all came, and she basically went over everything that's life-changing, and everything from your IQ to what your capabilities are. And I just started bawling, and I realized that my dad is not consoling me whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And my friend at the time, she was like consoling me more than anything. And my dad was all concerned about his seasonal affective disorder, and that gave me a very big clue that my dad was just there for himself, not for me. And the doctor shot him down pretty quickly and said, we're here for your daughter, not you. But right after that, there's a wording in my testing that said motor retardation. So he went back to my grandmother's house where I lived, and they basically, over like the next couple of months, they were trying to tell me that I'm not supporting them anymore, and that I'm retarded. So either you sleep upstairs in the attic, or you're gonna have to leave. And so I came home one day with my boyfriend at the time, and basically they had my stuff on the porch and out on the front lawn without telling me. So they basically disowned me. I had nothing. We had everything packed up in the truck as we could, and everything else, I guess they threw away on me. But as far as doctors goes, I've been to a couple of doctors since then because my doctor didn't order the right tests. He didn't think of them. My other people thought of them. It's like he didn't do his job right. So now I have a new neurologist. That's not bad at all, but it's just going through the trying to get food stamps or trying to get extra cash from the state, try to get anything is like there's so much red tape in this state, in Massachusetts. But it's like you have to beg for it. It's not like readily available. And then everybody, like Annie said, it's you fall through the cracks because if you don't beg for it, then it's not, you have to go head tooth and nail to get whatever you need, or they'll just forget about you. It's just a sad thing. I ended up in a homeless shelter because my family and friends, had stolen from me. And there was nobody there for me. And then I ended up going to, I go to a home, like a rehab center, Crumples, and they're the ones that are pretty much have been like my family through and through. and it's like a mini rehab, I guess. But after speech and occupational therapy, there's nothing out there like Crumples, because right now it's free for me. And they need more of those across the country, because it's the only thing that saves a person. But yeah, and I think, you know, I think I lost a part of me. I know with doing this with Annie, it's bringing myself back. So it's giving me a purpose in life. Like I can do this. So yeah, I think she's given me a second chance. But
Well, thank you for sharing your story. And to kind of tail off of how you ended, what do you think is the main reward that people can get from your efforts?
kind of the our the reward off of the reward that people get from us is just even from our website is they can go there. You know, we're not doctors, we're not physicians or therapists or anything like that, but you're gonna get information. You're gonna get the things that input from other people. You're gonna get there's links to read up and get informed. But also we have groups for ourselves that will help you get the peer support that you need, and the understanding of you're not alone in this, which so many people feel like I did, and sometimes you need that someone. It doesn't even matter if it's a total stranger. You just need to feel like you're part of something. And that could be, Annie. Like sometimes I've called her up and I say, I just had a crappy day, and she's there, and vice versa. We all do it for each other. And I know Annie, we love what we do. We have compassion for what we do, and we know that we're just helping others for what we went through. We're trying to help others not go through that same thing, through that red tape. But Annie can kind of describe it better, I guess, than I can. Annie?
Yeah, I'm just absorbing everything that Melissa's just said there, and yeah, without a doubt, that people knowing that they're not alone and that there is information out there. I mean, when we started this last year, there were a limited number of websites and things out there. There were a lot, but now the internet seems to be swamped with blog pages and new non-profits being started up and so on and so forth. It's like this momentum has started. That some people have been working hard for decades, like the Brain Injury Association of America have been going 30 years, 3 decades, and they've been working hard trying to do the same things that we are. And nobody's listening. And one of the problems there was that because it's a hidden disability and because of the stigmas that are involved, people weren't willing to come out and speak about what was happening to them. People do become very, very isolated, and now that we've started talking about it, and now that we've got Blog Talk Radio and things like that. It's like, wow, actually this is fine. I'm okay. This is, there are other people going through this. So, we bring hope and encouragement to people. And, the whole idea that this could all change, the things that have happened to Melissa and to, it happens to millions of people, Ashley. It's not just an odd one or two here or there. This is chronic. It's a really, really chronic problem. And, it creates an excitement, like, we're going to see an end to this, that if somebody threw a stone in a pond and it created a ripple, and and eventually that ripple is going to become a tsunami, and I can just feel it, almost day on day. I can just feel it getting bigger, this wave getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually it's just going to swamp everything, and everybody's going to wake up and realise, oh right, okay, so a brain injury is not like a broken leg. Oh, it's a lifetime condition that can cause, people can end up with all kinds of problems stemming from brain injury. The brain, is the orchestrator of everything that happens in your body. If the brain's broken, parts of the body stop working. It's that simple. And it's not, you're not going to, just because your life has been saved, doesn't mean to say that you're just going to go out, like, oh, I can walk on my broken leg again and off I go. It's not like that. And, this is one of the things that, we're trying to wake the world up about. And, you're starting to see little bits about that creeping into the media. And I actually found something that was either 2010 or 2011 that had been written about this. But I couldn't find anything else. Nothing's been done since. Somebody's proposing that, insurance companies need to understand, in America, that the insurance companies need to understand that this is not like a broken leg. And they do know as well. I know that they know. But, they refuse to, accept that rehabilitation works and that people need long-term care, because obviously it's going to cost them more money. And coming back to what Melissa was saying, they stuffed her back in the raft because they didn't want to be liable. Well, I got stuffed back on a horse because somebody didn't want to be liable. And it's not right. It really is not right. These things have got to change. And if say, for example, the people that were in that raft, or the people that were out on the ride with me that morning were aware of the things that we're saying here and now, then when that person has that accident, they're going to make sure an ambulance is called. They're going to make sure they go on a spinal board. They're going to make sure that they go to hospital and get proper treatment. And when they get there, because we've spoken about this, the doctor's going to say, oh my word, yes, I understand traumatic brain injury now, and this person will need long-term care, and they need it now, in this golden window of opportunity, which is what, the specialists call it, is in that, the first 6 months to a year, is when the brain has got the capacity to spontaneously recover. That is such a crucial period of time to anybody that's had a traumatic brain injury. And, they do designate them as mild, medium, severe and things like that, but a brain injury to us is a brain injury. And, it's going to be different for everybody. So, and recognising that it's a long-term thing, and providing care, providing treatment, providing support, those things are absolutely crucial. So, yes, the fact that we can all look at it and think, if we can achieve these things, then that does create excitement, because think of all those people, that are following behind us, that are not going to have to go through these things. And also the people that are living at the moment with these problems, can we bring change for them as well? Can we say, look, this your state needs to be putting into place a treatment program for this person that fell through the net. You need to be providing care for that person. And, it needs to happen. You cannot leave people. People can come back, and they come back to work, they can start to contribute again, and it's actually cheaper and more cost effective to give somebody treatment than it is to leave them. And that has now been scientifically proven. Hooray, thank goodness. You know, I'm always watching all this research and you know, checking out what's going on and keeping up with it all, because, you know, one of the things that we do with the Global Picnic website is pull all that together. And, you know, I'm quite happy. I wrote the other week, I think I said before, to Blue Cross Blue Shield, you know, with this research in place, what is your position now? I don't think they're going to answer me, but I'll keep writing. You know, and I will. If they don't answer me in the next few weeks and they keep ignoring me, then I'll just, you know, start contacting reporters and say, right, you know, you're an investigative reporter. Get out there and do something. Go and find out what's happening. You know, because it needs to change now, and they've got to stop making excuses. They've got to stop making excuses, and you know, what happens for one person needs to happen for everybody. Everybody needs to get the kind of treatment that Gabby Gifford's got. Simple as that, period. So yeah, so it is. It's creating a lot of excitement.
So Annie, can you tell us a little bit about the book you wrote called My Latent Self: Recovering My Soul After Brain Injury, and how you came up with that title?
Oh yeah, sure. My latent self was, you know, latent meaning, you know, forgotten, lost, and really, you know, the person that I'd been before had been completely wiped away. I lost all of my experiential memories. So, you know, like when you're plodding along through life, something happens, and you've got things from your experience. You know that eventually things are going to work out. You know, and you've got the little sayings that support that and back it up, that we say to ourselves. You know, every cloud's got a silver lining, or you know, this too will pass, and so on. And those things are the things that keep hope and faith going. Well, all of that was wiped out. I had no experiential memories at all. And like I said, it was like being taken back to being a 5-year-old child. And, yeah, so the person that I'd been previously had been totally and completely lost to me. And without a shadow of a doubt, you know, it felt to me as though I'd actually lost my soul. And I couldn't describe it because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I knew, the only thing that I actually knew, Ashley, was that my brain had worked differently before. And but how it had worked before, I had no idea. I had no idea. I could not have told you what the differences were at all. Whereas a lot of people can say, well, you know, I have problems with, you know, with math, with driving, with things, you know, things like that. I didn't have a clue what was wrong. Not a clue. And I noticed things that I was doing. For example, I was telling Melissa this story the other day, and I'll cut the long story short, but, you know, I had fires all over the place. I had fires right next to the property. I threw petrol on fires next to the property and next to a wooden building. And I had one, so I eventually learned over, you know, a couple of years, I eventually learned to actually, because I've got like a 150-foot garden. So I eventually started to learn to put the bonfires down the other end and not right next to the house. And one day I'm there and my brain just did not process. And I can remember being right next to this fire and thinking, oh, my face is hot. But I didn't do anything about it. That doesn't, you know, A stays at A. It's like a needle stuck on a record. And, yeah, and I stayed there. And when I came in, my daughter said to me, she said, have you seen yourself? Well, eventually, again, long story short, I'd burnt all the hair off the side of my head. You know, my face was scalded and all the hair had gone off one side of my head. Because my brain hadn't processed, you know, your face is hot, therefore move, you know. So I never got the next bit. And so my life it's actually, you know, when I look back at it myself, I mean, I know other people are going through this and it's not funny when you're going through it. But when you look back on it, you know, there's some really funny stories that you can tell. You know, and that's, you know, like any illness or anything else that you recover from, you know, and even family traumas and things like that, eventually we all get to a point where we can laugh at things. And, yeah, so I can remember, you know, being so lost. And I'd actually forgotten even in the existence of God or spirit or anything like that. And yet I'd been born knowing that we're all one thing and that nothing separates us and that we're not separate from God. And then one day, I can't remember what happened to bring it on, but I ended up on my knees on the floor next to my bed, absolutely sobbing my heart out, choking with this pain that was coming out of my heart and my stomach, and my whole body was wrapped in this pain. And I found myself begging to God, please, please just give me back. Please just give me back. And that was the moment when I suddenly realised that it was me that was missing. And you know, and the me that was missing was the person that had experienced life and had an autobiography and you know, had experiences that would enable me to deal with things that were happening in the present moment. Well, I didn't have those experiences. I had no knowledge of any experience. So everything that happened to me, literally every single thing that happened to me, actually, I had to start from scratch. And I had to try and work it out with very, very few tools in my box. You know, and I think I've put in my book that, you know, it's like, you know, somebody, you know, you can imagine a garden shed that's full of tools, and your brain is like that. It's full of tools, and there's all these tools doing different jobs. And, you know, it's all perfectly designed. And then, you know, it's like some thief came in the night and stole nearly all of the tools. And you're left with very, very little. And it's a horrendously difficult thing to try and move through and get past. So, yeah, really the title came from, and a lot of people describe it as well. A lot of people experience this loss of self. And a lot of people just notice that they're different from how they are before, and they say, you know, well, my previous self has died, and this is the new me. But, you know, one of the things that I do try to do is to say to people, well, actually, that person, look at me. That person that you were before, you can have that person back. You are still the same person inside. You know, brain injury does not damage your spirit. It does not damage your soul. And those things are around you still all the time, even though you become disconnected from them. You know, because the tools in your brain that allow those things to be a part of who you are broken. But you can get them back. I'm totally, you know, I totally feel like I did before. Just without the skills. So, you know, and that brings people hope as well, because it is quite devastating to have that feeling of loss. And, you know, that's one of the messages that I really wanted to get across in the book, which is why I chose that title, because I thought, you know, that anybody that was going through that same experience would, you know, be attracted to that book and would think, right, okay, you know, this is the you know, to me, the worst thing, you know, you can handle not being able to make a cup of tea or clean your teeth or, you know, put your contact lenses in, or, you know, take 3 years to work out how to get a sack of dirt and a seed tray and some seeds together. You know, you can handle those kinds of things. And then you need water as well, you know, but that takes you another year to figure out that you need water. And, you know, you can handle those things, but actually losing yourself and, you know, not knowing who you are is the most devastating and debilitating experience I think that anybody could ever have. People say to me, oh, well, you know, it's not like you've had cancer. And I, you know, my thought is I don't ever react or respond to remarks like that. But my thought inside myself, which I'll share here myself now, is that, you know, if I had cancer, at least I would have me to be able to get me through that. You know, with a brain injury, there was no me. There was no me to support me. There was no me to give me encouragement. You know, there was no me to love myself, and there was no me to give me kind words. And there was no me that understood the outside world. The outside world was totally alien to me. And, you know, the thing is that when you're like this, it just genuinely feels as though, you know, you're hanging on to the edge of the world, to the periphery of the world by your fingernails. And, you know, people from the outside cannot come across into your inside world, because there's no experience at all in a typical everyday life that can be likened in any way to the experiences that you have within a brain injury. They are totally unique to everyday life. People say, yeah, but we all do that, you know, yeah, well, we all forget things. Oh, well, yeah, we can all have bad days, you know, well, we can all have headaches. And and it's not like that at all. It's almost like an entirely new vocabulary needs to be written to describe what it's like on the inside of brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
That's so the book, because I've shared all of those things for caregivers, for somebody that's living with somebody with a brain injury, they can read that book and think, oh, okay, now I understand. And I've had, wives, mothers, all kinds of people come back to me and say, I just wish that I'd read this before. I had somebody come back and said, I wish that I'd read this a year ago because, my grandfather had fallen over and banged his head, and it brought on, they believed it had brought on dementia. Mm-hmm. But if they'd have read the book, then they would have been able to have understood what he was going through before he died. And and it does describe, the book does give a lot of practical help, and it describes, well, this is what's happening. This is actually what's happening. This is what you think is happening, but this is actually what is happening. And it just, it draws those parallels very, very strongly. So it does give a very unique insight into actually what it's like. It's not just, a story of what's happened to me at all. Mm-hmm. Because, there's millions of us out there that have had, experience with brain injury, and, it's not an event-led book. It is really just to genuinely get inside and help people to understand. So, and from the feedback that I've had, that's exactly what it does. Mm-hmm. And practical tools in there as well. Where to go for help, and what to happen if you're left alone with a brain injury and you have been dismissed by doctors. So lots of practical things in there as well.
Great. So I know that you guys have both mentioned that your traumatic brain injuries have left you, not having some of the skills that you did before your injuries. So how do you deal with your day-to-day personal challenges while still trying to inspire others?
Do you want to go first, Melissa?
Sure. My personal challenges they've grown since I've been doing this with Annie. Things that I didn't think I could do, I've been doing kind of. Last year was eye-opening to learn how to redo some of my challenges. But I'll speak for myself, but I think everybody would say the same thing, is we all do this because we have a passion for what drives us. Mm-hmm. And it's basically just helping others so that way they don't have the same thing happen to them. And I've always had this type A personality where so many people have helped me throughout my life that no matter what has happened to me, even this brain injury has never stopped me from paying it forward. And this gives me the perfect outlet to do that. And it's very comforting to have Annie there right beside me, kind of doing this together, because it's a perfect fit. At least I think so. It's just uplifting, and the whole team really understands, because we all have brain injuries. There's not really any, oh, so-and-so's better or anything like that. We all kind of work together. And if I have a hiccup in my speech or something, they just know. So there's not really, there isn't any challenges, because we understand each other. I wouldn't call it a challenge anymore. But we just, we get the job done, and that's all that matters. And we can look back and say, I know that, on my last day on Earth, I can say I've done something huge to impact the lives of millions. How many other people can actually say that? Mm-hmm. So, and Annie has given me the hope and the love, and this dream of hers has enabled me to inspire others. You can't get any better than that. So, and I probably don't say it enough, but thanks, Annie, for everything.
Oh, you're welcome, my darling. You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, for me, with personal challenges, I mean, some days you just have brain dead days where your brain just will not work at all, and it won't do anything, and you can't think of a thing to say, and I'll go on Facebook and I've got somebody saying, whatever the issue they're going through at the moment, and heartbreak or whatever, and I'm just sat there and I think, I can't think of a thing to say. There's absolutely nothing will come. And one of the things that how do you deal with those personal day-to-day challenges? Well, that one in particular, I go and find some sort of really stupid, crazy music, and I will dance around the room doing the most idiotic things you've ever seen anybody do, but it gets my adrenaline pumping. I've worked out that it'll make my adrenaline pump, and when my adrenaline pumps, my brain works better. So, you work out these coping mechanisms, and, when it comes to dealing with, day-to-day challenges, you can't even think of them. I look at some of the things that I did this time last year, Ashley, with posters for the picnic and things like that. And I think, what on earth was I thinking of? The best that I could do personally at that moment in time with the cognitive disabilities I had, and it makes me realise how severe they were still a year ago, and how far I hope they're better this year. I think they're better this year, and I look at it and I think that's really pulled me along, and I just keep pushing every single day, right the way through this last 12 and a half years. I've just kept pushing, and one thing that people talk about is this personality change thing, and I'll come back to that briefly, because if you actually lose your personality, then I know that I survived those first 5 years on my own, because my core personality, that I believe that it's genetically, and I've done some research on it as well, genetically implanted into us. So and a lot of it, we are all, because we are part of life, and all of life is tenacious. All of life wants to survive. All of life is determined. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at the weakling seed or whatever it is. All of life wants to do those things. So, and to me, that's part of personality, and that's still driving underneath the surface. You might not be aware of it. You might not be able to consciously use those skills, but they're still there. I believe they're still there, and they drive you, and it's about being driven. And I was talking to a neuro psychologist the other day, and he said, he's working with people with brain injury is just the most incredible experience for him, because we inspire him. He said, I'm just so inspired, he said, by the strength and the determination of people to recover. He said, I just, people have their moments, he said, but everybody's just driven to recover. And to me, that's life, that's that inbuilt desire to survive. And, so that survival instinct is so strong in all of us. But we don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. We want our lives back, we want quality of life back. And at the moment, with the politics and, and everything else, that all the red tape, as Melissa calls it, that gets in our way, they're taking away our quality of life. And that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting to say, no, I deserve that. Everybody deserves that as much as anybody else. Just because you've had a brain injury doesn't mean to say that you suddenly don't deserve a quality of life. But that's how we're being treated. That is how we're being treated. So, yeah, you just got to keep pushing. And, the little things that I know that I have problems with, I just keep trying to remind myself, and, use my coping mechanisms, and, all the little things that I've learned to do. But while we're on that briefly, I just would say to anybody that what you've got to remember is that the brain learns through repetition. So whatever you do, just practice, practice, practice. If you find that you can't make a cup of tea, don't just make a cup of tea once or twice a day when you're thirsty. Make 50 cups of tea at a time, because it's that repetition and that constant repetition that will build back the habit. And what you want to do is get back to doing that by habit. Because when you get back to doing that by habit, it frees up space in your brain to be able to think of doing other things. And that's really what you need to do, is to try and get as many skills back as you can. But if you only make a cup of tea once a day, it's going to take you a long, long time to work out how to make a cup of tea. It's like a child. If you say to a child, look, here's an alphabet, how long does it take a child to learn an alphabet? Now, if you sit there with a child and repeat it day in, day out, day in, day out, they might get it in a month or two. But generally, we're not doing that. We're just doing it occasionally and singing them the songs. And, it'll take them a year or two. The brain learns slowly. The more you repeat things, the faster it's going to learn. The faster it learns, the more space you get left within your brain to use to do other things. And, that's really key. I just wanted to throw that one in there while we were on the subject.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So what would you say has been the biggest challenge or setback that you guys have had so far in the Brain Injury Global Picnic campaign?
I don't think we've had any setbacks that I can think of.
No, me neither.
Coming back to, what I was saying right at the beginning about everything I need happens with this incredible synchronicity. I can get somebody come to me and say, oh, I need help with, this. And I think, oh my goodness, when am I going to look to find out, that? And literally, either an email will pop in or a message on Facebook or something, or literally within seconds. And I think, oh, that's what I need. And it's just like everything's being delivered. And I was saying to somebody the other day, and I said, this is not like following my life's purpose. This is like having my hand held and being led. And it's a total difference. And it's just the most incredible experience. I'm being shown everything I need. I'm being shown where to go. So when it comes to setbacks, Ashley, I believe in perfect timing as well, divine timing. So, I don't actually see a setback anyway. Even if there is one there, I wouldn't recognise it, because that's not the way my brain thinks. I would just think that something had happened perfectly because it's not supposed to happen at that moment in time. It's supposed to happen later, and that God's got a handle on all of this, and it's God that's, brought us all together. And I don't talk about God as a separate entity to us, but as something that's within us all. And it's time I feel, for this change to happen right here and now. And and we're all coming together. It's just incredible how all the key players and everybody that are like-minded are just all drawn together, very much like you finding us. We're all just drawn together, and it's this momentum that we're creating, that's bigger than anything that's ever happened before. And the difference is really, Ashley, is that this momentum is being created by survivors. It's actually being created by survivors, and it's got an entirely different energy, I think. So when our loved ones and caregivers have tried to do things on our behalf and have tried to make things better for us, but of course they can't speak from experience. So although they're really passionate about, they want change, and this has got to be better for people, and we need to make sure that our doctors are trained, and so on and so forth. When it's us saying it kind of gets a little bit more notice taken, because it's like, oh well, that's a real experience. That's not just somebody speaking on behalf of people that they say that, well, it might be one person they're speaking on behalf of, it might be 100, but if there's 500,000 people saying, I want doctors to be trained because I didn't see a doctor that knew about traumatic brain injury, or 1 million people or 10 million people, then people will start taking notice. You know, and that's what we need. We need all those voices to come together, and it's not for us to shout, but it's to give us a stronger voice, and that's what we want.
Definitely. So how does it feel to have reached such a notoriety with your organization that you could possibly be in the Guinness Book of World Records?
Well, the benefits of that, of course, are that it just gets the media involved and it helps us to bring change. So when it on a personal level, it's you know, I wouldn't even say that's a personal a personal achievement to me, because it's not going to be a personal achievement to me. It's, you know, it's like I don't feel like the dream that I had belongs to me alone. You know, that is shared by everybody. And, you know, if we get the Guinness World Record, then that is also shared by everybody. It's been achieved by everybody equally. And, you know, that's just very much the way that I see things. You know, I just don't see us as being separate. We're all one family, and we're all driving for the same things. And, you know, to me, you know, the fact that I am sitting here at the moment using my voice, it just happens to be the way that it is. It's not because I've chosen consciously to put myself there. I've been pulled along the road and plugged here by some greater some greater energy than I am myself. So yeah, I see it as, you know, I'm here to serve. I'm here to serve, and hopefully to lead as well. And you know, to bring encouragement and inspire people. And you know, maybe I got picked for that because, you know, hopefully I might have those skills. But you know, really, it's down to all of us. And you know, if people turn around and say, look, you know, all these people living with brain injury have achieved a world record, but is that, you know, it's a really difficult one to achieve, you know, then that puts us all in a totally different light as well. You know, because yes, we are, you know, by doing this, we're contributing to the world, you know, to you know, what kind of world we want to live in, you know, to the kind of culture that we want to live in. And you know, we're speaking out, and we're saying, you know, this is how it's going to be. And by having that world record, people will start to take notice. So you know, it won't be quite so easy to ignore us and keep sticking us in. I always think of, like, you know, those dusty little corners in the British Museum where they've got all these, you know, all these bones and things that nobody wants and nobody pays attention to, but they're actually really, really important. You know, you need to get these things out and dust them off, because they're absolute treasures. You know, they need to be displayed, they need to be talked about, and they need to be wondered at, you know, because, you know, there's you know, people have still got, you know, we've got on the website as well, we've got an area for artists. Obviously, we've got a book list, but we've got poetry as well. And, you know, we're willing to put anything on like that anybody asks us to do. We do everything we do for free. I've never asked anybody for a penny for anything. And, yeah, so it's all done for free. And, you know, and it gives people a place to be a part of everything again. Like Melissa was saying, you know, you just want to feel a part of everyday life. And you know, we're not accepted in the general world, and they won't give us jobs in the general world, but we want them. You know, we want them. We want to be accepted. We want to come back out there, but you need to help us. You know, those of you that have not been injured, you need to help us. But you're never going to understand that until we educate you.
Definitely. So, Melissa, I think that we're going to end with this one. Can you give us some advice for people that are looking for some brain injury resources?
Well, like I said before, for resources, you can go to our page at biglobalpicnic.org. But there's websites out there that you know, could give you some information, but ours in general has anything and everything that you could possibly need. We're resource central, pretty much, like Annie was explaining. As everything from videos to books to questions that we've had in our chat rooms that people really kind of take, personally take to home and have been asked if they would like it posted in our room. So it's a diverse website, and I would ask anybody if they're interested to go ahead, look at what's out there. We do have support groups. Um, uh, we have tons of information about rehab hospitals, but uh, as a person that's been in the medical world, before going into some of our web pages, talk to your doctor first, because nobody wants to, misdiagnose or anything like that, because we have several, what is a brain injury, that type of thing. So you need to talk to your doctor first before going anywhere about that. For the people that have really fallen through the cracks, there's tons of information on there. Like myself, there's millions of people that could take a look at this site and really get a huge resource from it. And then we have, like I was saying before, we have groups that are really helpful that they can be a part of and get peer-to-peer support. There's plenty of people in there that I'm friends with when I'm having a tough, hard day, and I'm brain dead. I go in there and just chat away and, tell them, what's going on in my life. And they're just so loving and committed to how I am, and they don't judge or anything like that. So nobody's really left behind. And that's kind of part of our mission is, that support level, that love, that everyone is there for each other. And I hope that anyone would say that I hope anyone and everyone would be their support system. Like, I didn't have anything for a long time, and a friend of mine saw me chatting in another chat room, and he said, "Do you know about these chat rooms?" And I didn't realize, that there were so many. And I was blessed to find Annie, and she has wonderful things on her chat rooms and her on her book website and on her regular Global Picnic page. So I would definitely take a look at that.
Great. Well, I just want to say a big thank you to you both. Is there anything else you want to add here before we wrap up?
Yeah, everybody get their finger out and organise a picnic and get it registered on the site.
Yes,
there we
definitely.
go.
Yeah.
I don't know that we mentioned the date of the picnic either. So
No, we didn't know.
September 21st. Yeah.
Saturday 21st of September. But the thing is like last year, a lot of people put their picnics on at the last minute, and that can create an awful lot of work for us. When we're trying to say, that this picnic's been, registered, and we're trying to do the SEO for it, and we're trying to say to people, thank you so much for doing that. When they're all coming on at once, that just creates way too much work for us. So, we're asking people, come on now, and if you want to have a picnic, just put a draft on there. You don't have to fill in any details or anything else. Just put the draft there, and then you can come back later, because then I can say thank you now, and and that's another bridge crossed.
Yeah, and we can have an idea of, like, if you kind of know the number of people right now, even if at least 20 people will be there, like it was last year, put that number in. You can always change it later. It's not a big deal. And I can help you with that. That's one of my lovely goals, to try and keep up with everything. But we just need to have everyone register ASAP, just so that way
because we really do need help, and there are other people other than Melissa and I doing an awful lot of work behind the scenes. If I start naming names and I miss one, then I'm going to be in trouble. So just a huge thank you to everybody that is out there and supporting us, both last year and this year. And but we're always got things to do, and whether it's just tweeting for us, whether it's posting things on across Facebook pages, sharing things, and getting the word out there, doing some research. We would love, Canada wasn't as strong as it could have been last year, and I get so busy, and sometimes work really stupid hours, but I still haven't had the time to sit down and just go through and make a list up of every brain injury, non-profit and branch of the BIAC and so on, and have that database and make sure that we've covered all of those people. Have we, let them have, our poster and video for this year? Do they know that the Brain Injury Global Picnic's going on? And then I'm also trying to research the rest of the world. And I have to say, the great news this week is we've now got a really good contact in Turkey. So we've got that country on board. Hey, thank you, Melissa. That was from a lead that you gave me. And so there's just so much that we need to do. And if people want to be involved and they want to help, we don't have a hierarchy in this organisation. We're a team. We're a genuine team. And, the other people that are out there doing things, they're doing it all of their own back. They're not coming to me and saying, oh, Annie, is it all right if I do this? Or is it all right if I say that? Or whatever else. They understand exactly what our goals are. And they just go out there and do things. We've got somebody that just goes out there and posts things on websites and sends out press releases. And, we've got people that phone up all the TV channels. Well, I don't even know about it until after they've done it. So, and that's exactly what we want. I want people to be empowered, and I want people to say, yeah, I'm a part of this and I own it. This is what I dream as well, rather than, needing to come and, sure, we're here for the support. Don't get me wrong. We're absolutely here for the support and for answering questions. But, we just can't have enough people. We literally just cannot have enough people, whatever country people are in. We need you to just come along and say, hey, look, I'm going to help. This is what I want to do, and I want to be involved. And, and then, right, okay, well, you can see what we're doing. Go away and do it. And if you need help doing that, we'll show you how.
And Annie, can I just say one thing? If they want to contact us, you're doing the international, I'm doing the United States. They can all email us at biglobalcause@AOL. And if you're in the U.S., you can also call me at 617-406-8754, just so that way they have that information.
Yeah, and we have contact forms obviously on the website as well. So people, if you forget all of that, just go to the website and you'll find the contact us box, and just go there. But you can search BI Global Picnic on Facebook. Yeah, and we've also got Global Brain Injury Awareness, which is the community page for the Global Picnic as well. So, please come on there and hit the like box and, show us some support. And, anything that we post there, that page actually really gives us a strong indication of, how far things are going and actually what is going out. So, when people share from there, Facebook are actually giving the statistics on that. So we're getting a good idea of, what's actually going out. So that's a really good place for people to come and to help us, is just to come on there and hit the share button, We also do little question and answer things on there as well. We do, for little bits of research. So, come on there and, tick all the boxes, do your votes and, get involved that way. There's lots of things that we do, and we love people to come to us and tell us their stories and tell us what their experiences are, tell us, what things they want to change, what do they want to see changed, and why do they want to see it changed. And we encourage people to either I can't say that word, you know what it is, anonymously, or with their picture and their name. They we'll post that on Facebook. I've done quite a few that are anonymous. People don't need to put their name on there or their picture. We like that, because it gives credibility, to the or credit, sorry, to the person that's actually made that comment. And but anonymous is fine as well. But the researchers are looking at the page and they're saying, wow, look, there's a huge amount of research here. We're actually seeing the real inside of brain injury. They're really fascinated with it. So it's going to go a long way towards helping and creating a better future for us all. So please do just come in and get involved. Everybody can do something, even if it's just say, well done, girls. A little bit of encouragement is nice as well, and men, girls and boys. So yeah, a little encouragement along the way is really nice as well, because in a way, there's the team of us running, because we're so isolated from the external world, sometimes we can still feel that isolation. So are you hearing our message? And if you are, please just come and tell us, because we'd love to hear about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much again for taking the time to do this and for all the hard work that you're putting into the Global Picnic.
Well, thank you, Ashley. It's been a pleasure. And, I really want to thank you for your interest and for taking the time to do this as well. And I hope that it's been fulfilling for you and maybe educational, and that it's given you what you needed.
It's done all of that and more. I really do appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Ashley.
Yes.
Thank you very much indeed, Ashley.
Okay, well, thank you, ladies. Take care.
You too.